Let me ask you something honestly. Have you ever made a money decision, maybe a big investment, a snap purchase, or even a loan to a family member that fell apart immediately? And the worst part wasn't losing the money. The worst part was the shame that followed. The voice in your head saying, "You should have known better. You're too old to be this stupid with money." If that sounds even slightly familiar, you need to hear this. That shame you feel isn't proof that you're bad with money. It's proof that you're missing a single tool. I call it the pause strategy. And by the time you finish watching, you'll understand why highly intelligent, successful people fall for terrible money traps and exactly how to stop it from happening to you again. Most people don't realize this, but after the age of 40, financial mistakes start to carry a different kind of weight. In your 20s, a blown paycheck is just a funny story. In your 40s, a bad money move feels like a betrayal of your own intelligence. I speak to people every week who manage teams, run businesses, and make complex decisions daily. Yet, they hide credit card statements from their spouses, or they panic sell stocks the day before the market recovers. The problem is never their IQ. The problem is the speed of modern money. The financial industry, e-commerce giants, and even well-meaning family members have designed a world that wants you to act instantly. Urgency is the enemy of logic. The pause strategy is simply the act of inserting a buffer between an emotional trigger and a financial transaction. Let me show you how this plays out in 3 very common scenarios. Let me be honest about the first scenario, because it stings the most for the savers watching. This is the limited opportunity trap. Imagine you get a call from a smooth-talking advisor or a close friend who just made a killing on a private real estate deal. They tell you there is only 1 unit left, and if you don't wire the money by tomorrow morning, the opportunity is gone forever. The intelligent person in you wants to analyze the cash flow, but the scarcity instinct kicks in first. You don't want to be the fool who missed out. So, you override your logic, you send the money, and 3 years later, you're stuck in an illiquid mess you hate. The mistake here is equating speed with intelligence. The practical application of the pause strategy here is physically standing up and walking away from the email or the phone. Tell them very firmly, "I have a personal rule. I never commit to a deal requiring immediate payment within the same week. If it's gone tomorrow, I accept that loss." You will find that genuine opportunities can handle a 4-8-hour pause. Scams and bad deals crumble under that pressure. Now, the second scenario is much more subtle and happens to the most organized people. I call it the reverse budget panic. This is where smart people make terrible choices not because they lack data, but because they look at the data too often in a state of fear. Picture a man who has a solid retirement fund. He checks his portfolio app daily. One morning, he sees a headline about a global trade war, and his portfolio drops 2% in a week. The logical, educated adult knows the market has always recovered over a 20-year span. But the pain of seeing red numbers triggers the primitive brain. He thinks, "I'm going to be smart here. I'll just sell everything, sit in cash, and buy back when things are safe." He mistakes a permanent pause for a strategic one. The practical solution is to create environmental friction. Uninstall the trading app from your phone's home screen. Log out of the brokerage account so you have to physically find a password to log in. When you feel the impulse to sell in a panic, the rule is a mandatory 7-2-hour pause. Not 72 hours of staring at the ticker, but 72 hours of living your life. Emotion decays faster than logic. In almost all cases, that burning urge to fix the portfolio will fade, leaving you with a rational decision to hold steady. There is a third trap that often escapes the conversation but ruins net worth silently. It's the generosity complex. This affects the successful, generous person who finally has a bit of surplus. A relative comes with a business idea. It's not a gift they want. It's an investment. You love them. You see their passion. Your emotional brain tells you that saying yes makes you a good brother or a supportive father. Saying no makes you feel like a greedy miser. So, you write a check quickly to get the awkward conversation over with. The mistake is confusing a relationship transaction with a business transaction. The pause strategy here uses a delayed script. Never say yes or no in the first meeting. Instead, use this line. I love that you thought of me, and I need to check my current capital allocation. Let me come back to you in 3 days. That 3-day window moves the decision from your heart to your spreadsheet. During that pause, you can separate the person you love from the deal that might fail. If the deal fails without your money, you can still be a supportive relative. If the deal fails with your money, you lose both your cash and the relationship. The pause protects the relationship. Let's do a reality check. Here is the harsh truth about money that most people ignore until it is far too late. Your brain is not wired to be rich. It's wired to survive. In prehistoric times, if you saw everyone in your tribe running, you didn't sit down to analyze the data. You ran too. That instinct kept you alive from saber-toothed tigers. Today, that same instinct makes you buy a soaring stock at the top of a bubble, or sell a great asset during a crash just because everyone else is panicking. The financially free person is not the one who never feels fear. It's the one who has a system to ignore it. You have to accept that your gut instinct about money, your hot take, will be wrong more than half the time. So, what do you do with this information right now? I want you to take 3 immediate action steps. First, create a decay delay for luxury purchases. If you want a gadget or an item of clothing that costs over $100, write it down on a note on your fridge. Date it. You cannot buy it until 7 days later. You will find that 70% of those items lose their magic within a week. That's the pause eating the impulse. Second, apply the same logic to a tax on your long-term savings. The next time you see a terrifying financial headline, force yourself to read the news from exactly 1 year ago today. You won't remember 90% of those old crises. That historical pause brings calm. Third, protect your biggest asset, your time. When someone pitches you a side hustle or a business that promises easy money, reply with one line, "Send me a 1-page summary, and I'll review it on my weekly planning day." High-pressure salesmen will refuse to write it down. Honest people will send it. That request for writing is a pause that filters out toxicity. When you start implementing the pause strategy, people might call you boring. They might say you're overthinking it. Let them. That careful, deliberate silence before answering a money request isn't a sign of weakness. It's a sign that you've stopped treating your hard-earned capital like an emotional scratch card and started treating it like the foundation of a free life. If you have ever made a rushed money decision that you regretted the next morning, I want you to comment below with just one word: learned. Let's see how many of us are in this together. And if you want to keep making logical moves while the rest of the world runs on panic, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell. I'll keep sending that voice of reason your way. Now, I realize I've spent this entire time talking about how to pause before spending, investing, or lending money. But let me be honest with you about where this strategy truly changes lives. It's not just about preventing bad decisions. The real gold, the part most people never reach, is what happens in that silence after the pause. That quiet moment is where you rediscover what you actually want. Because here is the uncomfortable reality check I see every single day with people in their 40s and 50s. They don't just make bad money choices because they're impulsive. They make them because they're bored, or they're trying to buy a version of themselves that doesn't exist. They buy the luxury SUV because they think it will make them feel like an adventurer, but they just drive it to an office park. They invest in a risky crypto scheme, not for the money, but for the thrill of feeling like an early adopter again. The pause doesn't just stop the transaction. It exposes the lie. There is a harsh truth I need to share with you, and you may not like it. If you constantly find yourself needing to use the pause strategy, if you're constantly fighting the urge to trade stocks, buy flashy things, or bail out relatives, the issue isn't just a lack of control. The issue is likely a lack of clarity. When your financial goals are fuzzy, any opportunity looks like the answer. When you don't know exactly what your retirement monthly income needs to be, you're vulnerable. When you haven't defined what enough looks like, you will always reach for more, and you will reach too fast. The pause strategy is a fire extinguisher. It puts out the immediate blaze. But you still need to rewire the house so it doesn't keep catching fire. That rewiring is clarity. Most people don't realize this, but the most successful investors I know aren't constantly making moves. They are often doing absolutely nothing for months at a time. They've done the hard work of building a system that matches their actual life, and then they let it breathe. They have replaced the anxiety of FOMO, the fear of missing out, with the peace of JOMO, the joy of missing out. They understand that missing a hot stock tip is not a financial failure. It's a necessary filter for a quiet life. So, let me leave you with 2 final action steps that build on the pause. These are not just about stopping a behavior. They are about starting a new one. First, I want you to open a notebook or a note on your phone right now and write down a singular financial purpose. Not a number. Not, I want $5 million. That's meaningless. Write down the feeling or the freedom that money is supposed to buy. Maybe you write, I want to wake up and drink coffee on a porch overlooking trees, not a highway. Or, I want to say yes when my grandchild asks me to come visit, without checking my bank account. Define the purpose. The next time you face a money trigger, during your mandated pause, ask yourself just one question. Does this action speed me toward the porch and the trees? Or does it complicate my life and push that further away? You will be shocked at how many supposedly great opportunities are actually obstacles dressed up in a suit and tie. And the second action step is this. Protect your pause with silence. Do not announce your pause strategy to friends or family as some new life hack. Just live it. When the car salesman says the deal is only good for the next hour, you just politely say, I understand. I still need to leave. No explanation. No apology. You don't need to justify a pause to anyone trying to rush you. The person rushing you is the one who benefits from your lack of thinking. That slight, awkward silence is not rudeness. It's a boundary made of air, and it is the cheapest insurance policy you will ever buy. Let the world wait. Your future is more important than their urgency. As we wrap this up, I want you to reflect on one final thought. The wealthiest version of you is not the one who made the most brilliant, lightning-fast move. It's the version of you who stopped making the predictable, avoidable errors that drain a lifetime of work. You already have the intelligence. You already have the work ethic. You were just missing the small gap between stimulus and response. That gap is where freedom hides. If this message shifted something in the way you view your next financial decision, please hit that subscribe button and the bell beside it. My goal with every single video is to help you keep what you earn and build a life that looks exactly the way you want it to look. And if you know someone who is smart, successful, but keeps stepping on financial landmines, share this video with them. Do it quietly. They'll thank you later. I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for pausing.